The crystal dome of the council chamber had never been so quiet in its 1,000-year history. 47 different species sat frozen in their floating chairs, staring at the 6 humans who had appeared in their most secure room like ghosts walking. Through walls, the only sounds were the soft humming of the life support systems and the nervous breathing of aliens who had never experienced fear before. High Arbiter Golwyn tried once more to activate his emergency systems, but nothing responded. His crystalline fingers moved over controls that had always worked perfectly, but now seemed as dead as ancient rocks. The panic colors swirling through his transparent body were getting brighter and more chaotic. "How long have you been watching?" Ussie asked, and his musical voice cracked like glass under pressure. Dr. Shin Jae-won stepped forward from behind Colonel Nam's team. She was Earth's leading expert on galactic politics and had been studying council operations since before most of the current members were born. Her simple gray uniform made her look harmless, but the data tablet in her hands contained information that could destroy governments. "Since the day we first met you," she said with a calm smile. 43 years ago, when your first contact ship arrived at Earth, we began what you might call a very long-term intelligence operation." She activated her tablet, and the air above it filled with holographic displays showing human agents on dozens of different worlds. Some wore alien disguises, others had undergone surgery to look like different species. Many had lived entire lifetimes pretending to be loyal citizens of council worlds, while secretly reporting everything they learned back to Earth. "Every trade agreement you offered us gave us access to your worlds," she continued. "Every cultural exchange program let us place observers in your governments. Every joint scientific project taught us how your technology really worked." Commander Velktar tried to stand, but his legs were shaking too badly to support his weight. "You were supposed to be primitive miners and farmers," he said. 4 arms that had always been steady now trembled like leaves in a storm. "That was the whole point," replied Dr. Shin. "A species that appears weak but prepares for strength, has every advantage over those who mistake arrogance for power. We encouraged you to think of us as helpless, because it made you careless." The viewing screen around the dome came alive with images from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, emerging from hiding places that had concealed them for decades. What the aliens had thought were mining vessels revealed themselves as battleships. What they had believed were research stations, open to release fighter squadrons. Captain Lim Subin's voice came through the communication system from her ship, which was now visible just outside the station. "Our deep space fleet has been ready for 15 years, she said. "Every vessel you thought was civilian cargo or scientific research is actually a military asset." The numbers were staggering. 237 major warships each, more advanced than anything in Council space. Over 1,500 smaller combat vessels scattered through 40 different star systems. Weapons platforms disguised as communication satellites. Shield generators hidden inside what looked like ordinary orbital factories. Queen Hiva made a sound like metal tearing apart. "Your people seemed so dependent on our guidance," she said. "How could you have built all of this without us knowing because you never bothered to look closely?" answered Dr. Shin. "You saw what you wanted to see. Workers who were grateful for your jobs, colonists who needed your protection, scientists who learned from your superior knowledge. But you never asked what we were really doing in our spare time." She showed them images of human colonies that looked peaceful and simple from space. But underground, each world contained manufacturing, facilities that could build starships, defensive systems that could destroy attacking fleets, training centers where human soldiers learned to fight, using tactics no alien species had ever encountered. General Thorvin, who had been silent since the humans arrived, finally spoke in his voice like grinding stones. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Are you here to conquer the Council and rule the galaxy?" "Yourselves, Colonel." Nam walked to the center of the chamber where High Arbiter Golwyn still stood frozen with shock. "We want exactly what we have always wanted," he said. "Partnership between equals, fair trade agreements that benefit everyone, mutual respect, and the right to govern ourselves." He gestured to his team, who lowered their hands to show they carried no drawn weapons. "We are not interested in conquering anyone. We simply refuse to be conquered. Ourselves. Lieutenant Park activated another hologram that showed the current positions of Council attack fleets. All of them had stopped, moving toward Earth because human ships had appeared around them offering a simple choice: surrender peacefully or be disabled and towed back to their home worlds. Your military commanders are discovering that their weapons cannot lock onto our ships, he said. Our stealth technology is 40 years ahead of anything you have ever seen. Your missiles pass right through our hulls without exploding. Your energy beams cannot find targets to hit. Sergeant Kim stepped forward with her own data display, showing psychological profiles of every major council leader. We have been studying how you think and how you make decisions, she said. We know that High Arbiter Golwyn fears losing the power he has held for 3,000 years. We know that Commander Felktar worries that his people are not as strong as they pretend to be. We know that Queen Hiva suspects her technology is becoming obsolete. All of your fears are correct, she added, but that does not have to be the end of your influence. Dr. Shin moved to stand directly in front of High Arbiter Golwyn, whose colors were now shifting between deep blue panic and angry red confusion. The Council can continue to exist, she said, but it will exist as a forum for equals, not as a hierarchy where older species command younger ones. What are you proposing? Asked High Arbiter. Golwyn simple answered Colonel Nam. The same partnership we have been offering for 40 years, open trade between all species, shared technology development, mutual defense, agreements, and most importantly, the understanding that no species has the right to rule over any other species. Private Jung gestured toward the viewing screen, which now showed human rescue ships helping disabled council vessels. Some alien crews were already being returned safely to their homeworlds while their weapons were being studied and catalogued. We could have destroyed your fleets, she said, but destruction is not the human way. We prefer to build rather than tear down. We would rather have friends than subjects. The chamber remained quiet for several long minutes as the council members absorbed what they had learned. The species they had planned to enslave was offering them partnership. The beings they had thought were primitive were actually protecting the entire galaxy from threats they had never imagined. High Arbiter Golwyn slowly sat down in his floating chair, and his colors shifted to a soft green that indicated deep thought. For the first time in centuries, he looked uncertain about his own superiority. What guarantee do we have that you will not use this power against us someday, he asked. Colonel Nam smiled, and it was the first genuinely warm expression any of the aliens had seen from a human today. The same guarantee you have always had, he said. Our word as fellow intelligent beings who share the same galaxy. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from every species. We are offering you the same thing we have always offered, a chance to be neighbors instead of masters. A galaxy where strength is measured by cooperation rather than domination. The Council would never again vote to command humanity. They had learned that the quiet species from the third planet was not as helpless as it appeared. And perhaps more importantly, they had learned that true power came not from forcing others to obey, but from earning their respect. The galaxy became a more peaceful place that day. President Kim Dae-ho sat in the underground bunker deep beneath Seoul, looking at the hologram floating above the metal table. The message from space glowed with alien writing that hurt his eyes to look at for too long. Around the table sat the most powerful leaders from every nation on Earth, and their faces showed the same mix of anger and determination. The translation had been simple and brutal. The Galactic Council demanded complete surrender in 7 Earth days. All human governments would be dissolved. All human military forces would be disbanded. All humans would work where the aliens told them to work and live where the aliens told them to live. There would be no negotiations and no second chances. Prime Minister Lee Bora from the Pacific Federation slammed her hand on the table hard enough to make the hologram flicker. 40 years, she said, and her voice was quiet, but full of rage. 40 years we have pretended to be weak. 40 years of acting like grateful children who need alien guidance. And this is how they reward our patience. The woman sitting next to her nodded slowly. Dr. Yang Heejin was Earth's leading expert on alien biology and psychology. She had spent most of her adult life studying every species in the Galactic Council, learning their weaknesses and strengths. Her reports had been classified at the highest levels for decades. "They think we are farm animals," she said while pulling up star charts on her portable computer. "But I have been receiving some very interesting signals in the past few hours. Someone wanted us to see more than just their official message." She pressed a button, and suddenly, the room filled with alien voices speaking in their own languages. The hidden recording from the Council Dome played from beginning to end, showing every detail of how the aliens had discussed humanity like cattle to be managed. When the recording finished, the room was silent. For a long moment, everyone had heard the contempt in the alien voices. Everyone had seen how casually the Council had voted to destroy human cities if Earth refused to surrender. General Park Min-ho was the first to speak. He was in charge of all military forces on Earth, and had been waiting for this day for 15 years, sir. He said to President Kim, "Our deep space monitoring stations detected something else. The aliens have no idea how many ships we really have in space." He activated his own computer, and the room filled with tactical displays showing the positions of human vessels throughout the solar system. What the aliens see as mining ships and research stations are actually our most advanced warships. We have been hiding our true military strength since the first day we met them. Admiral Choi Jae-sung leaned forward in his chair. His job was commanding the secret fleet that officially did not exist. Every ship under his command was disguised as something harmless while carrying enough firepower to level mountains. The Sol-class carriers alone could destroy entire planets if necessary. "President Kim, should we activate the sleeper protocols?" he asked. The words were spoken quietly, but everyone in the room understood their importance. The sleeper protocols would wake up every hidden military installation in human space and reveal the true size of Earth's forces. "Not yet," said President Kim, but his eyes were hard as steel. "First, we need to send our own message to the Council. They want to command humanity, but they have never bothered to learn what humanity actually is." Dr. Yang Heejin smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "Sir," she said, "I have been studying their psychology for decades. Their biggest weakness is arrogance. They cannot imagine that a younger species might be smarter or stronger than they are." She pulled up files on each council member showing detailed analysis of their personalities and decision-making patterns. High Arbiter Golwyn has ruled for 3,000 years and believes age equals wisdom. Commander Velktar thinks physical strength is the only measure of power. Queen Hiva assumes that technology alone determines superiority. "They are about to learn how wrong they are," said Colonel Nam Woo-jin, who had been sitting quietly in the corner. He was in charge of Earth's most elite soldiers, the ones who could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. His teams had been infiltrating alien worlds for years, gathering intelligence and preparing for this exact moment. President Kim stood up slowly and walked to the large window that looked out over the city above them. Seoul looked normal and peaceful, but hidden beneath every major city on Earth were weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop any known alien attack. "Send a message to Captain Lim Subin on the Incheon," he said. The Incheon was officially a deep space research vessel studying asteroids. In reality, it was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, and it had been waiting in the outer solar system for 10 years. "What are your orders, sir?" asked Admiral Choi. "Tell Captain Lim that operation awakening begins now," said President Kim. "It is time for humanity to attend a council meeting. But we will not be going as beggars asking for mercy. We will be going as equals demanding respect." The room began to buzz with activity as orders were sent to secret bases across the solar system and beyond. Weapons that had been sleeping for decades came online. Soldiers who had been disguised as civilians received activation codes. Ships that looked like harmless cargo vessels began to reveal their true nature. Dr. Yang Heejin was working at her computer when she made a discovery that made her laugh out loud. "The aliens think they are so clever," she said, "but they made one critical mistake in their message." "What mistake?" asked General Park. "They told us exactly where the council meeting will be held," she replied. "The station coordinates are right here in their ultimatum. They want us to know where to send our surrender, but they have no idea that we will be delivering our response in person Colonel Nam opened his secure communication device and began sending coded messages to his teams. "Scattered across the galaxy, sir," he said to President Kim. "My people are already in position. We can have a diplomatic team inside the council station within 48 hours. President Kim smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "The aliens want to demonstrate their power on our cities," he said. "Well, let us demonstrate our power in their council chamber." They voted to command humanity without asking what humanity might think about that decision. Prime Minister Lee Bora looked at the holographic display showing alien ships moving toward Earth. Most of those ships would never reach their destination. Human vessels that had been hiding in deep space for years were already moving to intercept them. "How long until our fleet is ready for full combat operations?" she asked Admiral. Choi checked his tactical display. 18 hours, he replied. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier will be ready. The aliens think they are hunting sheep, but they are about to discover they have cornered a pack of wolves." The meeting ended with each leader knowing their role in the coming confrontation. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not beg. Earth would show the Galactic Council exactly why no species in history had ever successfully commanded humanity. As the leaders left the bunker, President Kim remained at the window looking up at the stars. Soon those stars would witness something that had never happened before. A young species would teach ancient ones that wisdom did not always come with age, and that the strongest species was not always the one that roared the loudest. The council had 7 days to learn what humanity really was. But humanity only needed 2 days to show them. The giant crystal dome stretched high above the meeting room like a frozen bubble in space. The dome was so big that clouds formed near the top, where the warm air met the cold glass. Far below on the smooth white floor, 47 different alien species sat in their floating chairs that moved through the air without making any sound. Each species looked completely different from the others. Some had scales that changed colors in the light. Others had fur that moved like grass in wind. There were beings made of crystal that rang like bells when they moved, and creatures that looked like walking trees with eyes scattered across their bark. The air smelled like a mixture of flowers, metal, and something that reminded anyone who smelled it of rain on hot rocks. Commander Velktar stood at the center of the room on a platform that glowed with soft blue light. He was from the Zephyrian Empire and had 4 long arms that moved like snakes when he talked. His skin was purple and covered, with small bumps that glowed brighter when he got excited. Right now those bumps were flashing like angry stars. "The humans are causing problems again," he said, and his voice boomed through the dome without any machines to make it louder. That was just how Zephyrian voices worked. They live on a planet called Earth and they work in our minds on 12 different worlds, but they keep asking for strange things. "What kind of strange things?" asked Queen Hiva, who looked like a giant ant made of black metal that reflected the dome lights. Her voice sounded like wind blowing through metal tubes. When she talked, her head moved from side to side in a way that made other species feel nervous. "They want something called fair wages," said Commander Velktar, and he made a sound that might have been laughing if Zephyrians could laugh. "They say we should pay them more than we pay other species, just because they work harder and longer. They also want safety equipment, whatever that means." The crystal, being called High Arbiter, Golwyn rang like a bell when he moved in his floating chair. He was the oldest member of the council and had been alive for over 3,000 years. His body looked like it was made from clear glass, but with rainbow colors swirling inside like oil on water. "What else do these humans demand?" he asked, and his voice sounded like music played on glasses filled with water. Commander Velktar waved all 4 of his arms in the air. "They want rest periods during their work shifts. They say 12 hours of mining without breaks is too long. They want medical care when they get hurt in the mines. They even want their families to live with them instead of staying on Earth." This caused a great noise in the dome as all 47 species began talking at once in their own languages. It sounded like a storm made of voices. Some species clicked and others hummed. Several made sounds like machines breaking down. The noise grew so loud that High Arbiter Golwyn had to ring his body like a giant bell to make everyone quiet. "The worst part," said Queen Hiva after the noise stopped, "is that they are teaching these ideas to other species. My scouts on the mining worlds report that workers from 6 different Species have started asking for the same things. The humans call it workers' rights, and they say all thinking beings should have these rights. A new voice joined the conversation. It belonged to General Thorvin, who looked like a walking mountain made of gray stone with red eyes that glowed like coals. His species, the Granite Lords, were known for being practical and direct. "We have tried reasoning with them," he said, in a voice that sounded like rocks falling down a hill. "We offered them extra food portions and better sleeping areas, but they refused." "What did they say when you made this generous offer?" asked High Arbiter Golwyn. General Thorvin made a grinding sound that was how his species showed anger. "They said they wanted to negotiate. They used words like partnership and mutual respect. They even suggested that we should ask their opinion before making rules that affect them. Can you imagine such arrogance?" The dome filled with shocked sounds from all the different species. The idea that workers might have opinions about their own working conditions was so strange that many of the council members could not understand it at all. Ambassador Quillneck from the floating mine spoke next. His species looked like jellyfish made of light that drifted through the air. "Our psychic scans show that humans have unusual brain patterns. They think about concepts that do not exist in most species' minds, concepts like individual worth and personal freedom. These thoughts make them very difficult to control." Using normal methods, Commander Velktar began pacing back and forth on his platform, making his bumps flash faster. "We have been patient with them for 40 Earth years. We allowed them to keep their own government on their home world. We let them choose which of their people would work in our mines. We even let them send messages back to Earth whenever they wanted. But they have repaid our kindness with constant complaints and demands." High Arbiter Golwyn rose from his floating chair and moved to the center platform next to Commander Velktar. When he moved, all the rainbow colors inside his crystal body swirled faster like a storm made of light. "My fellow council members," he said, and his musical voice made everyone listen carefully. "We face a choice. We can continue to waste time negotiating with these humans, or we can solve the problem once and forever." "What do you suggest?" asked Queen Hiva. "The solution is simple," said High Arbiter Golwyn. "We vote to place humanity under direct command. No more negotiations. No more treaties. No more pretending they have any say in their own fate. They will work where we tell them to work. They will live where we tell them to live. They will do exactly what we command them to do." "But what if they refuse?" asked a small voice from the back of the dome. It belonged to one of the glimmers, who were tiny beings that looked like butterflies made of starlight. They were so small and quiet that most species forgot they were even part of the Council. High Arbiter Golwyn turned toward the glimmer, and his colors turned darker. "If they refuse, then we will show them what happens to species that defy the Galactic Council. We will demonstrate our power on their major cities. We will make examples that will teach them and every other species the price of disobedience." The vote happened quickly. Each species pressed a button on their floating chair to show what they thought. Green light meant yes. Red light meant no. Yellow light meant they were not sure. 46 green lights appeared in the dome. Only the glimmers chose yellow because they were too frightened to vote either way. The decision was final and could not be changed. Humanity would become a servant species, controlled like animals instead of being treated like thinking beings. "Send the message immediately," ordered High Arbiter Golwyn. "Earth's government has 7 days to surrender complete control of their species to the Galactic Council. If they refuse, we will attack their biggest cities as a lesson to anyone else who thinks they can disobey us." The alien representatives began leaving the dome, feeling satisfied that they had solved their human problem. None of them noticed a small maintenance robot floating near the ceiling. The robot looked like all the other cleaning machines that kept the dome spotless, but this one was different. This one had been recording everything. The robot belonged to someone who would make sure this recording reached very different ears than the Council intended, someone who would warn the humans that their peaceful days were about to end. Captain Lim Subin stood on the bridge of the starship Incheon, watching space through the main viewing screen that stretched across the entire front wall. The ship floated silently in the asteroid belt where it had been hiding for 10 long years, disguised as a simple mining station. Any alien scanner that looked at it would see old machinery and rock processing equipment, not the most advanced warship in human history. The bridge around her hummed with quiet activity. Dozens of crew members sat at control stations that glowed with soft blue light. Each person wore the dark blue uniform of the Earth Deep Space Command, but their patches showed no rank or unit numbers. If the ship was ever captured, no one would be able to trace where. The crew came from. Lieutenant Han So-young looked up from her sensor station. "Captain," she said, "stealth systems are running at maximum power. We are completely invisible to any known alien detection method. Even if they flew right next to us, they would only see empty space." Captain Lim nodded and walked to the tactical display in the center of the bridge. The holographic map showed the positions of 51 other human ships scattered throughout the galaxy. Each one had been hiding for years, waiting for this moment. Some were disguised as cargo vessels, others as research stations, and a few as damaged ships drifting in space. Chief Engineer Oh Sung-min checked his power readings. "All weapon systems are ready, Captain," he reported, "but they are powered down to minimum levels. The aliens have no idea what kind of firepower we are carrying." The Incheon was armed with weapons that used technology the aliens had never seen. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through any shield, gravity cannons that could crush a ship by creating a small black hole next to it, energy beams that could slice through the strongest alien armor like it was paper. But the most dangerous weapon on the ship was something much simpler: human intelligence. Dr. Kang Mira sat at her research station studying files on every species in the Galactic Council. She was an expert on alien psychology and had spent 15 years learning how different species thought and made decisions. Her job was to predict what the aliens would do when humans finally revealed themselves, Captain, she said. Their biggest weakness is that they have never fought a real war. The galaxy has been peaceful for over 1,000 years because everyone follows council rules. They have weapons, but they have never used them against an enemy who fights back. She pulled up psychological profiles of the main council leaders. High Arbiter Golwyn thinks that age and experience make him superior to everyone else. Commander Velktar believes that physical strength is the only thing that matters. Queen Hiva assumes that having more ships automatically means victory. What they do not understand, said Dr. Kang, is that humans fight differently. We do not rely on brute force or overwhelming numbers. We use strategy, deception, and surprise. Our ancestors won battles against enemies who had better weapons by being smarter and more creative. Captain Lim walked to the communication station where Colonel Nam Woo-jin was receiving updates from his teams across the galaxy. Colonel Nam was in charge of the most elite human soldiers who could infiltrate any alien facility without being detected. His people had been watching the council for years. "Colonel, what is the status of our advanced teams?" she asked. "All teams are in position," he replied. "We have people on every major council world, and 3 teams are already aboard the council station itself. The aliens think their security is perfect, but we have been walking through their defenses for decades." He showed her a tactical map of the council station, which was a massive structure that orbited a neutral star. The station was home to thousands of alien diplomats and was protected by shields and weapons that were supposed to make it impossible to attack. "Our transport technology is 40 years ahead of anything they have," Colonel Nam continued. "We can put a full diplomatic team directly inside their council chamber whenever you give the order. The aliens will never see us." Captain Lim studied the mission parameters that had been sent from Earth. President Kim wanted a small team to appear in the council chamber during their next meeting, not to attack, but to deliver a message. The goal was to show the aliens that humanity was not as helpless as they believed. Sergeant Kim Yansu was checking her equipment at the security station. She was one of Colonel Nam's best soldiers, but she looked like an ordinary young woman in a simple uniform. Her weapons were hidden inside devices that looked like communication tools and medical scanners. "Captain," she said, "I have been studying the layout of the council chamber. The aliens have never considered the possibility that someone might appear inside their most secure room. They have guards on every entrance but no security inside the chamber itself." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. While the council members discussed how to punish Earth, 6 humans would simply materialize in their meeting room. Not through any door or window, but by using transport technology that could move people across space instantly. Lieutenant Park Jin-ho was monitoring alien communications from his station. "Captain," he reported, "the Council has scheduled an emergency meeting for tomorrow. They plan to discuss the final details of their attack on Earth if we refuse to surrender." "Perfect," said Captain Lim. "That gives us exactly the audience we want, every council member in one room with no way to escape or call for help." She activated the ship's internal communication system, sending her voice to every crew member aboard the Incheon. "Attention all hands," she announced. "Operation Awakening is now active. We are about to show the Galactic Council that humanity is not the weak species they think we are." In the weapon control room, Master Chief Ryu Minjae was running final checks on systems that had been waiting years to be used. The Incheon's main guns could destroy a moon, but today they would remain silent. The real power would come from simply proving that humans could appear anywhere they wanted. Dr. Song Ariam was analyzing alien technology from her science station. "Captain," she said, "our computers have been intercepting Council communications for months. We know their security codes, their emergency procedures, and the personal fears of every major leader." "What kind of fears?" asked Captain Lim. "High Arbiter Golwyn is afraid of losing control after ruling for so long. Commander Velktar fears that other species might be stronger than his people. Queen Hiva worries that her military technology is becoming obsolete. They are about to learn that all of their fears are justified." The bridge crew worked through the night, making final preparations. Every system was tested twice, every backup plan was reviewed 3 times. The mission had to be perfect because humanity would only get one chance to make this impression. As the Incheon moved silently through space toward the Council station, Captain Lim thought about what tomorrow would bring. The aliens expected humanity to surrender or fight a conventional war. They had no idea that humans preferred a third option, changing the rules of the game entirely. In 12 hours, 6 ordinary-looking humans would walk into the most secure room in the galaxy. The Council members would learn that their perfect security was an illusion, and that the species they planned to enslave was actually the most dangerous force in known space. The Incheon disappeared into quantum space, leaving only empty darkness behind. When it reappeared, the galaxy would never be the same. The massive Council station hung in space like a metal moon, orbiting the bright yellow star called Nexus Prime. The station was 5 kilometers wide and home to over 50,000 alien beings from every corner of the galaxy. Its silver hull reflected starlight in patterns that looked like flowing water, and its hundreds of docking bays welcomed ships from worlds that humans had never even heard of. Inside the station, thousands of corridors connected meeting rooms, offices, living quarters, and recreational areas. The air was kept at a temperature that every species could tolerate, and the artificial gravity made it comfortable for beings who came from worlds with different conditions. Security drones floated through every hallway, scanning for weapons or threats that might endanger the diplomats who lived and worked there. The station's security was legendary in its perfection. No unauthorized ship had ever docked there. No weapon had ever been smuggled past the scanners. No intruder had ever walked the corridors without permission. The defense systems could destroy entire fleets, and the shields could stop any known attack. The Council station was considered the safest place in the galaxy. That perfect record was about to end in Corridor 7 on level 15. A maintenance worker noticed something strange. 6 humans were walking calmly toward the main elevator banks. They wore simple gray uniforms that looked like the clothes worn by diplomatic staff, and they carried small bags that appeared to contain nothing more dangerous than computer tablets and writing materials. The maintenance worker was a Glimmer, one of the tiny butterfly-like beings who cleaned and repaired the station. He watched the humans pass by and felt confused. Humans were not supposed to be on the station at all. Their species was not part of the Council, and they had no diplomatic immunity that would allow them to visit. But the humans walked with such confidence that the Glimmer assumed they must have permission to be there. He went back to his work, cleaning the ventilation systems, and forgot about what he had seen within minutes. Colonel Nam Woo-jin led his team through the station's corridors, following a route they had memorized. From stolen blueprints, behind him walked Sergeant Kim Yeon-soo, Lieutenant Park Jin-ho, Master Sergeant Choi Daewon, Corporal Lee Min-seo, and Private Jung Hai-young. Each team member looked like an ordinary human diplomat, but they carried technology that could disable any alien weapon system within 1,000 meters. "We are invisible to their sensors," Sergeant Kim whispered, as they walked past a group of tall blue aliens who paid them no attention. "Our stealth field makes us appear to belong here." The technology was based on psychological manipulation rather than physical concealment. Human scientists had learned that most alien species relied on mental patterns to identify threats. The stealth field convinced alien brains that the humans were supposed to be there even when logic said otherwise. They reached the main council chamber just as the morning session was beginning. Inside the great crystal dome, 47 species of aliens sat in their floating chairs discussing the final details of their plan to attack Earth. High Arbiter Golwyn stood at the center podium, his crystalline body flashing with colors that showed his excitement. "The human deadline expires in exactly 18 hours, he announced to the assembled delegates. "Our attack fleets are moving into position around their solar system. Soon we will demonstrate what happens to species that refuse to obey Council commands." Commander Velktar waved his 4 arms in agreement. "My warships carry enough firepower to level every major city on Earth. The humans will learn that their primitive weapons cannot protect them from Council justice." Queen Hiva clicked her mandibles in a sound that passed for laughter among her people. "Our intelligence reports show that Earth has no significant space defenses. They have a few cargo ships and some orbital platforms, but nothing that could threaten a real military force." The council members made sounds of approval and satisfaction. They were confident that humanity would either surrender or be crushed like insects. Their plans were perfect. Their weapons were superior and their victory was guaranteed. Colonel Nam stepped through the main entrance of the council chamber, and his team followed behind him. They walked across the polished white floor as if they owned the place, while 47 different species of aliens stared at them in shock. "Excuse me," Colonel Nam said in a polite voice that carried clearly through the dome. "But I think there has been a misunderstanding." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Aliens began shrieking, roaring, clicking, and making sounds that had no names in any human language. Security alarms started blaring throughout the station, and emergency lights began flashing. Some council members tried to flee from their chairs while others reached for weapons that were not there. Commander Velktar stood up so fast that his floating chair spun wildly through the air. "How did you get in here?" he demanded, while his 4 arms grabbed for a sidearm that refused to work. "This station is supposed to be impenetrable." "We walked," said Sergeant Kim with a smile that showed her teeth. "Your invitation was not very polite, so we thought we would deliver our response in person." High Arbiter Golwyn was making sounds like breaking glass as he tried to activate his emergency beacon. Nothing on his control panel was working, and his crystalline body was flashing colors that showed pure panic. "Impossible," he said. "This is the most secure facility in the galaxy." Private Jung Hae-young gestured toward the main viewing screen, which suddenly came alive with images from space. The screen showed dozens of human ships that had been invisible until this moment. Each vessel was sleek and deadly looking with weapon systems that glowed like stars. "Actually," said Colonel Nam, "we have been watching this station for quite some time. We know the location of every important council facility in the galaxy, and we have people on most of them right now." The viewing screen changed to show more images. Human soldiers standing in alien government buildings. Human ships docked at supposedly secret military bases. Human diplomats sitting in meetings that were classified at the highest levels. Every major alien power had been infiltrated without knowing it. Queen Hiva tried to activate her personal shield generator, but found that all of her technology had stopped working. "What do you want from us?" she asked, and her voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. Lieutenant Park stepped forward with a data tablet that projected holographic images into the air. "We want the same thing we have always wanted," he said. "Fair treatment, mutual respect, and the right to govern ourselves." The hologram showed Earth as it really was, not the primitive mining world the aliens imagined, but a highly advanced civilization, with cities that reached into the clouds and technology that surpassed anything in Council Spacemaster Sergeant Choi activated another display that showed the true size of the human space fleet. Hundreds of ships appeared on the screen, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council possessed. For 40 years, said Corporal Lee, we have traded with you and learned from you. We studied your technology and improved it. We watched your military tactics and developed better ones. We listened to your diplomats and learned how you think. Colonel Nam walked closer to High Arbiter Golwyn until they were only a few meters apart. You made one critical mistake, he said. You assumed that because we seemed weak, we actually were weak. The council chamber fell completely silent as the alien leaders realized the truth. The species they had planned to enslave was actually the most powerful force in known space. The humans they thought they could command with threats and violence had been quietly preparing for this moment for decades. Your fleets are moving toward Earth, said Colonel Nam, but they will never arrive. Our ships have been waiting for them, and your crews will be given one chance to surrender before we disable their vessels. He turned to address the entire council. You voted to command humanity without asking what humanity might think about that decision. Today you learn our answer.